everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Center here at Pro Tour Cons of Tarkir in Honolulu. I'm here with Brad Nelson. Brad, for the record, I would totally do the Brad and Brian show.
I would
anytime
love it,
you're
yeah.
ready.
We should just start that immediately.
So, Brad, it has been 5 years since the first time we did a deck tech in
That's true,
Honolulu.
yeah.
It was the Draxus Spectre deck.
And oh man, was I nervous then. You can actually go back and watch it, and I just like look at the camera like,
I think you actually tugged on your collar. So half a decade into your pro Magic career, and we're back. You're high up in the standings. You're hoping for some tiebreaker miracles.
I'm just here to play Magic, man. Like, I'm not worrying about all that.
But you have a really cool deck. It's red-white tokens is how it's listed in the archetype. But you called it a Mac deck.
Yeah, I called it Red White Mac.
And what does Mac stand for?
Mid-right, aggro, and control.
How can it be all of these things?
It does all three. Sometimes a little bit, better than others, but it's really good, and it can have a ton of situational sideboarding. So.
Okay, and then what's the reason you chose to play this deck? You said it has a great matchup against a big target in this field.
Yeah, I mean, its best matchup is Jeskai Tempo, which I thought was going to be a lot bigger than it actually was. One of its worst matchups is green ramp decks, so we brought a sideboard.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the deck. Let's see the sort of base of the deck. Monastery Swiftspear, Goblin Rabblemaster, a card you really sort of explored for people at the last Pro Tour.
Yeah.
With the Rabblemaster red deck.
Surprisingly, he's the worst card in the deck because the whole format has turned around to where there's Magma Jets and Lightning Strikes and Bile Blights and a lot of ways to deal with Rabblemaster. Right. So he's good in a proactive strategy. He can still win a lot of games, but mostly you need him in your deck so people respect him, and then you can play Outburst, which we'll get to. But the other two prowess guys, those are real.
Seeker of the Way and Monastery Swiftspear. Talk about Seeker of the Way.
It's awesome. It's mostly just has a target on its head, and that's what I want it to do. Like, I want it to die most of the time. Like, of course, I'd want to win the game with it.
Right.
But the deck, when it's trying to be proactive, usually only has one white source. So you have to, have not as many white cards in your opening hands. That's, a really important thing about the deck. That's why we're playing 3, because every time we drew 2, the first one was worse because of the second in the hand.
Okay.
But the best card, I think, in the deck is Monastery Swiftspear. I think the card is just phenomenal. It just closes games immediately. You can just, kill that guy, deal you 2, kill that guy with a Searing Blood. So many games I was on the draw against Jeskai Tempo, and they were at 14 on tapping on turn 3 because I just played that, hit him for 1, Searing Blooded the guy, and they were at 14. And it's just phenomenal Magic card.
It's funny. I think so many Magic players, when they build a deck, they say, I'm going to play a card like Seeker of the Way or Monastery Swiftspear. They say, I'm going to build it, and they envision how they're going to win with it. But you're actually talking about situations where you're like, this is how I'm going to get this part of the way there with it, or this is how I'm going to draw a beta removal spell out of their hand with it. And you're not fantasizing about this is just going to be the deck. This is all a puzzle piece in building a deck and exploring a strategy.
Well, that's the format, really. You can try to just play guy, and attack, but it's not going to work. There's coursers, there's removal spells, there's brick walls like Brimaz and Madness Rider, and you just don't want to spread the board. So it's a really subtle format where attrition's a factor, and you just have to sequence your cards in an interesting way to get them to the 8 points where you have burn spells or you can top deck something.
Right. Now, to be fair, let's take a look at the next set of cards here. So you have some new cards from this new set besides the Seeker of the Way and the Monastery Swiftspear. Hordling Outburst and Sarkon the Dragon Speaker. They're kind of creatures.
Yeah,
they're also spells.
They trigger prowess, which is awesome.
So talk about these two cards. You're in love with Hordling Outburst.
Yeah, well, so Hordling Outburst was a card where I ended up going and building a mono red deck. That's the first place I started. I had 8 1-drops with Foundry Denizen because it works really well with it, and I couldn't find a good 2-drop. But the first time I played against Jeskai Tempo, and I was going to turn 3 on the play, and my opponent just had Magma Jet Man open, and I was looking at Rabblemaster and Outburst, and I'm like, this is exactly what I want to do at this Pro Tour. Just play the Outburst, get 3 tokens, they have no way to interact with it. When you're behind on the draw, you can play it on turn 4 and stoke them, or stoke their creature. It's just a huge tempo play for the deck. And in a lot of the other matchups, it's just 3 guys that they have to have a mass removals effect unless they're playing Bile Blight. But the card has been really good, and it works with different sideboard strategies.
Okay. Now, Sarkon the Dragon Speaker over maybe Stormbreath Dragon here?
Yeah, the reason I wanted Sarkon because it kills Brimaz and kills Courser, and it plays both game plans. Like if I have a lot of tiny guys, I can just kill something and keep attacking, as well as it goes best with my sideboard plan.
Okay. All right, so let's take a look at some more cards. We see Magma Jet, Lightning Strike, Stoke the Flames. You could just be a burn deck. You could just, I've seen you just kill your opponent with burn.
The deck is just a burn deck at heart. Like you play these creatures because you want some just free wins. Like the whole format is about finding the way that your deck wins, and you can't just burn a person out. The decks are just so powerful. Like Courser's in the format, the Rhino.
Sure.
And
people
so,
starting at 22 off of 2 refuges on the first 2 turns.
And so it's subtle because you need all the burn spells to finish the game off, but all the prowess guys work perfect, and Rabble Master still does damage when it's not dealt with, and Outburst can just attack even into a couple creatures.
Okay. And so even more removal coming up in the next set of cards. Oh.
Well, there is 3 Syrian Bloods in the deck and 1 Titan Strength.
Yeah, there we go. But let's take a look at the lands. A Windscarred Crag, about 4 Battlefield Forge, 4 Temple of Triumph, 11 Mountains. So this is really a red deck, and you have some white cards.
Yeah, and we also want creatures to visit mountains. We want to chain them to them. So like we have 4 of that, and so you need a high number of mountains.
Right.
And the Wingscar Crag has just been fine. Like the deck wanted another white source, but I didn't want to just play 4 planes because the second planes is always just atrocious.
Right. Okay. Let's take a look at the next set of cards.
Well, this is not in the main deck.
Yeah. So there's 4 Change of the Rocks not represented here, and a Titan Strength that we. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Well, here this is main deck.
Yeah, this is main deck. Yeah. Slides are out of sequence there. 3 Searing Bloods, 1 Titan Strength, and 4 Change of the Rocks. So that's where your white and your 11 mountains are really coming into play.
And the 1 Titan Strength over the Searing Blood is it makes them respect it sometimes, especially with prowess guys. Like they might not want to block even though it's a free roll, because you could just like kill a guy if they block with a Courser, or you can Searing Blood with prowess, which is
wonderful.
Yeah. But Titan Strength just helps make the Courser decks maybe take a point of damage.
And you get to feel so smart when you do it during your upkeep, don't you, Brad Nelson?
I love doing the Titan Strength upkeep trick. Yes, that's one of my favorites.
I knew it. I had the read on you. All right, so let's take a look. Let's go back to that sideboard set of cards there. And so this is a big transformational sideboard here.
Yeah.
Because your deck that's starting out with Monastery, Swiftspear, and Seeker of the Way, but I'm looking at End Hostilities, Elspeth Sun's Champion, and Chandra Pyromaster. Looks like a completely different deck.
It is, and the thing that I found out about the format during testing is every deck has powerful cards and a curve, but they have more non-threats than threats. And so every deck has a ton of removal, and the games become attrition-based because there is no Underworld connections, there's no Sphinx's Revelation. Dig Through Time tries to act as one, but it doesn't really take over a game. I mean, unless you're already ahead.
It only gets you 1 card because the other card's always another Dig Through Time.
It lets you tutor 7 cards, which is a very powerful effect. But when it comes down to card for card, it's not that great. So I've not been punished by playing a ton of Elspeths in 24 lands, especially on the draw. Now, the 1 Elspeth is pretty much just an on the draw card. Like I'll play the 3rd on the draw in certain matchups and only 2 on the play. And the Chandras are phenomenal against a lot of the mid-range Mardu and Jeskai Tempo, because the game's just...
So you're not just slamming all these cards and turning into a control deck. You're doing some fine-tuning?
I have 2 more rounds left, and I'll be writing an article about how to do this. It'll be extensive.
Okay.
I'm not going to give away all my secrets.
All right, well, let's give away some more of your secrets, though, right here. 2 Suspension Field, a Hammer of Purphoros, 2 Banishing Light, and of course, I guess if you're going to that more control-y deck, you want more mana.
Yeah, you need to play at least 24 lands to cast 3 Elspeths. Like
at least 24 lands, he said confidently.
No, I mean, you don't get punished that often. Sometimes you do, but the thing about the deck is that the games just are attrition based, and they have Sylvan Caryatids and all these creatures that don't matter. So the draw go happens a lot, even if it's 2 aggressive or mid-range decks.
Okay, well, Brad Nelson, I really like what you did there. I like this idea of MAC as a category of deck. We've seen a bunch of decks that are doing more like this 75 card decks that are just kind of tailoring the 60 that they're playing with based on the matchup.
Well, if Wizards is going to keep making great cards that sit on top of other great cards, we're just going to have to just switch them out. Like, we just have to play all the good cards.
All right, well, there you have it. Play all the good cards. Advice from Brad Nelson. The Brad and Brian show is coming to a theater near you sometime soon.
I'm going to pay tickets for this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, magic tickets.
Yeah, I get it.
Sending it back to the news desk.